Good evening.
Good, Bill.
Hey.
Good evening, everyone. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, brothers.
We're going to try to get started in 2 minutes. What up, Antoine? What's up, man?
Man, doing great. How about you, man?
All right. Ant, what up? Del State.
All the same, Bill. Look like you got two Antoines in here. What's up with you? How you feeling?
I'm chilling, man.
Man.
Trying to keep my head down.
That's it. Ain't nothing wrong with it.
Where Kev at, man? He can't get connected.
Oh yeah? Yeah, because he alerted me. Okay, yeah. See, I just finished talking to him, so
see if he could try to get in now. He might have been trying to get in before it was open.
Okay.
All right. We ready when you are, Ava. Just let us know when we're live. We're live?
It says it is. I'm not sure. I see in the corner it says live. Are we live, Whitney? I see Whitney's. I don't know if she's moderating us tonight.
You're live.
Okay, roger that.
All right. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Locker Room Chronicles, where the brothers get together. We go ahead and share our feelings. We get open with it. We get real with it. We tell you ladies out there how we're feeling. We talk amongst ourselves and we keep it real. We always identify an issue, find out how we may be responsible and hold ourselves accountable, and then also apply solutions by the end of the meeting or whatever that we can apply to our lives in order to improve ourselves. So that's our motto. That's how we rolling. Gonna welcome my co-host Eugene up there up top, and my frat brother Lynn. What up, man? All right, building boundaries. Want to go ahead and kick it off, Eugene?
What's cracking? Guess who's back? Hey, what's going on? Guess who's back? Locker Room Chronicles back in the building, doing what we do best. I want to send a shout out to my bros, man. Everybody, man, happy holidays, happy New Year, the whole nine. Listen, man, we're going to do some things different on this season, man. We're going to dig deep. On last season, we touched some bases. We taught the brothers how to shoot their shot. We taught them what to do, what not to do, all those things. But here's where we're going to make things a little different. Now you shot your shot in an event that you've actually got your teammate and identified your teammate. Here's what we got to do now. Now you got to set up some boundaries. You got to set up some things, because I believe if you don't set boundaries in the beginning of a relationship, what will end up happening is you'll just kind of go with the flow. And you all know what happens when you go with the flow. Right down the road, you're going to run into a brick wall going with the flow. I have a confession back in the day. I used to be like, hey, let's just go with the flow and see what happens. But I learned very quickly and very swiftly that you can't go with the flow. You got to set some boundaries and set some guide rules and put some things in place, not only to protect you, but to also protect the other individual, and also make the situation that you're trying to build to be peaceful and to build on a successful foundation. So with that being said, I think I'm going to let my boy Lyndon kind of, start this thing off, because Lyndon, we call him the sensei. He's our great advisor. He's done the work. I'm in the process of doing the work, and he's a little step ahead of us. So I'd just like to hear how he would like to describe this. So go on, Lyndon. Explain to us, man, about this thing called boundaries.
Turn your mic on.
I'm mute, bro.
Hey, Happy New Year, everybody. Can everybody hear me?
Yes,
Yeah.
sir. Yes. Loud and
Yeah.
clear.
Yeah. So I really appreciate the compliment, Eugene. I don't think I claim to know everything, but I can say that I've done the work to,
Exactly.
put myself through my private time, my therapy, my healing. So now that I'm in a relationship, when we talk about this concept of setting boundaries, the key part of that is effective communication. Because if you don't have the proper boundaries and you don't lay out the expectations, then what happens is you got two people that's not on the same track. And that's one of the things that I say I think I can pride myself. And I'm so thankful that Eugene and Bill allowed me to still participate in this. Because I think that honesty just keeps everything simple. And for me, what I consider one of the most precious things on this earth is time. And I'm just one of these types of people. I don't like my time wasted.
Come on,
So
sir.
in the situation I'm in right now, and I've talked to Bill and Eugene, and they want me to invite, my lady on one of the calls so folks can ask questions. She'll tell you right out the gate. I came out the gate letting her know that, yeah, I'm interested. However, these are what my expectations are. These are the proper boundaries I think we need to kind of stay in. So we're making sure we're on the same path. So I say all that to say that two people really have to communicate effectively, and we can kind of get into it, later on, in the show. But one thing that can happen when you have two people working together, you can't have one person working along the exception path and having another party having to apply to a rule. Now, somebody who might be wondering what that means, when you have the exception, people can move the scale wherever they want it to be. The rule is that other person, and within this chat, some brothers might agree, a lot of times we as men, we have to always apply to a rule, So effective communication, working together, avoids all that. So having said all that, I just think that proper communication, keeping it honest, keeping it simple, helps you put those proper boundaries in place so nothing gets crossed up. So.
No doubt. I would like to welcome, ladies and gentlemen, back at the Locker Room Chronicles. The sixth man is in the house, Kevin Williams,
Big Kev,
the
what's cracking?
host of the Six Man Podcast. Y'all got to check him out. What up,
Right.
Kev?
Hey, bro.
Not much, Bill. You know me, man. I'm just chilling,
I
man.
have
Just
been drinking, bro, but you
happy to
sideways.
be here. Huh?
You sideways, bro. I know I ain't had no drink. This ain't wine. This is pop. But you
He
sideways, bro.
Nah,
came in
you know me,
sideways.
man. I run all day, man. So
But your picture
sometimes
sideways on the post.
it is what it is.
Well, let's hit it, though. Let's go.
Go ahead, man. What's your
bro.
opinion on on building some boundaries? Like, how important is it in your relationship? And then, how do you use some tact as a brother to tell your woman, look, this is my boundary. I really don't like when you cross these boundaries and everything. And how can you get her to respect those boundaries? Speak on it.
Wow. So I think that there's a few things you touched on. I think for the most part, respect go both ways. It's a two-way street. You know what I mean? And so I think in general, a lot of times when we start relationships, we normally start them as men, sexual. You know what I mean? And let's just be honest. I mean, sometimes we dive right in just because of what it looked like, what it smelled like, what it reminded us of, or whatever the case may be. You know what I'm saying? So sometimes we get off track and not understanding, the respect boundary first, because at the end of the day, I mean, she only gonna respect you as much as you respect yourself. And let's just keep it honest. Sometimes men, we go at women a certain way, and that allows them to say, okay, well, if he coming at me like this, I ain't necessarily got to hear what he talking about because he, you know what I'm saying? So he not really respecting himself. So for me, I feel like within the relationship, once you committed, you know, told the person, you know, that you with them, y'all don't work and got to a certain point, you know, it's definitely important to talk about boundaries because for the simple fact that she grew up different than you grew up different than her, you done seen some stuff that was, you know, different than she's seen, vice versa, right? So I just feel like for me, once you see that it's getting to a point where, you know, you got to step up and verbalize, you got to figure out a way to be respectful. Again, that respect piece come back up because you don't want to necessarily, you know, be disrespectful to her or make her feel like you being insensitive when you say what you got to say. But at the end of the day, you're the man. She wants you to lead. So she has to at least respect what you tell her in terms of, you know, knowing what to say, what not to say, how to react, because we all gonna react to each other emotionally sometimes. I mean, it just happens. It is what it is. Sometimes I'm gonna say something, she gonna say something. We might not necessarily, you know, mean to say it, but in the heat of the moment, we say something, right? But I feel like even with that being said, she has to know when not to go below the belt. For some reason, I'll give you an example. When women are upset with men for whatever reason, they like to attack our genitals. Or that's why you got a low ass dick. You know what I'm saying? It's almost like, what is that for? You know what I'm saying? It has to be some type of boundary in place where we don't even have to go there. Because if we go there and you want me to go there, then it's tit for tat. Because now I can attack you in that way, but you don't want that. You know what I mean? So I think at the end of the day, for me, I just feel like it has to be a lot of respect there, you know, on both sides. You know what I mean? And then if it's something where you feel like you need to talk to her about to, you know, understand how to communicate with you, how to talk to you, then you do that. But then in terms of talking to her, letting her know how you feel, I would say you just have to be respectful. I mean, every relationship is different. You know, trying to talk to every female is going to be a little different. I mean, you know, me trying to talk to my ex-wife versus me talking to a young lady that I've just met is going to be different because they different, you know, all the way around. So you got to find, you know, the likes and dislikes of this person and try to figure out a way what's best that's going to meet you, you know, in agreement in terms of communication to let her know, you know, where you at and what you're not going for. I mean, and we got to do that as men. Now, I mean, we can do it respectfully, you know, and I'm going to keep saying that word because I feel like respect has been lost to a degree. I mean, when females get upset with men, even when we get upset with them, we may react emotionally and do something that might be disrespectful, but then in turn want them to be respectful to us and want them to listen to us. And it go both ways. So I just feel like at the end of the day, for me, I want to be upfront. I want to be respectful, but I want to share some of my life experience so you can understand where I'm coming from. Not get too deep with it, but at least give you an understanding in the background that, you know, when you come at me a certain way, if you raise your voice, if you use certain language, that's a trigger for me. And I don't have no problem giving you what my triggers are so that way you don't do that. So I would say, Bill, for the most part, I just want to be respectful and upfront and communicate, you know, if there is a problem. Because you might get a relationship and you might get a young lady where y'all might not never have any issues, but at least she kind of know where you coming from Jump Street. I mean, that's just kind of my take on it.
All right, that's what's up, man. And from Dale State, representing Dale State alum. What's up, man? Welcome to Locker Room Chronicles. Let's hear your opinion on it, man.
Well, first of all, I want to say I appreciate the invite into the Locker Room and the opportunity to participate in the Locker Room Chronicles. When it comes to boundaries, I guess for me, it's understanding that it's okay to establish those. You know, like as one gentleman said earlier, effective communication is very important in relationships. Like for me, one thing that I really enjoy doing is kicking it with my fellas, like whether we go to a bar to catch a fight or to catch some games or whether, we just going out to eat. I feel like every relationship should have, separated time so that lady should have her time with her ladies or her own personal time. And me as a man, I should have my fellas time or I should have my me time. I mean, don't get me wrong. I understand a relationship is new and it's fresh and you want to spend time with that person. But there's a saying that says, absence makes the heart grow fond. How can my heart grow fond if I'm always with you? And then I find myself in that place where I'm like, getting a little tired of being around her all the time. So I, find myself staying at work a little longer on purpose or hitting the bar after work on purpose because I want some sort of time. So I think it's important for that man and that woman to have the type of boundaries that say, you know what, it's okay for us to have some apart time and we can still have an effective relationship as long as we both have that understanding.
Oh, word. Good point. Gary, let's hear some wisdom from you, brother. Because I know you done been through it.
Here we go. What up, Gary?
What?
He's the GOAT.
Yeah, so you want what not to do. Okay.
Yeah, right.
Basically, I would echo everything that everybody said, although keep in mind, communication requires transparency. So, and some things don't need to be discussed early on because you need to let the relationship develop in a manner that allows each person to build trust, a foundation of trust. So no, you don't need to be worried about what tux you're going to wear at the wedding. You don't need to worry about where you're going on honeymoon. First thing you need to worry about, like you guys have said, is communication, talking about what boundaries. But the other thing is, for me, it's really important that whenever you have a disagreement that you disagree fairly. You don't attack the person personally, you attack the thought. You attack the position. Okay? And it's really good if you take that biblical advice to never go to bed angry.
That's right, sir.
All right now.
Say it
All
again.
right.
Never go to bed angry. So whatever you do, even if you can't come to a resolution, you say, okay, we'll pick this up at another time. But there will be peace when we go to sleep.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that's about all I have right now. But I think, my approach to relationships is a little bit different than probably most of you guys because I do things in sort of a structured way. I'll talk about certain things. There'll be certain subjects that are, as I referred to as, what did I call it? Hold on. I'll get to it later when I think about it. But there are certain questions that I don't answer. It's like, no, we're not at the stage yet where it's important. Like, for example, I've dated women who have been assault victims. I don't need to know you're an assault victim unless we are having a discussion about an exclusive relationship. Now, at the time you talk about an exclusive relationship, you need to let everything out. You need to talk about your health status. That's both physical and mental. You need to talk about how you handle finances. You need to talk about how you expect to bring to come into one household. You may never decide to get married, but that's all of those things. Okay. But until then, not asking and I'm not answering. Because the vast majority of relationships fail. So there's no need to get into real deep stuff until you're about to make a deep move. That's all. I'll step back and let you.
Hey, Bill, real quick, I want to ask Gary a question. So basically what you're saying is boundaries can change on levels. So is that what you're saying on the level of relationship? Like if I'm meeting you for the first time, there are going to be some general boundaries that are already set in place. But as we begin to go from the talking on the phone to the actual, well, since it's COVID, it's kind of hard to actual court, but you got to do what you got to do. But dating and then actually when you move to the intentional stage, that's why each level, those boundaries have to change because like you said, we're entering into a new realm. Like you're not going to tell me the first night that you got 12 different baby daddies and you can't maintain a relationship. We're not doing that. But as we begin to grow, and that's why I tell you fellas all the time, we need to start doing the same thing they do fellas, I say this consistently. Women study us, bro. When a woman is interested in you, she studies you. And you need to do the same thing. Be aware, pay attention. Make sure you kind of watch for those different signals. And sometimes, Gary, what if you see something that kind of posts up a red flag? Do you question that? Because maybe you're not in that intentional stage, but it's something that concerns you. So what do you do about a situation like that?
You address it. You don't let it slide. You don't automatically cut off, but you address it. You need to say, let's say, for example, this is a boundary. Let's say, for example, your trigger is being called punk. Okay, well, just hypothetical. So you all get into a disagreement and she calls you a punk. You're not at the point where you're exclusive yet. You're still in the dating phase. Now that's your trigger. You say, look, the quickest way to lose me is to call me a punk. Best way to do that, and the best way for us to interact, never use that word. You only have to say it once. And while we're on the subject of saying things once, apologies. When you are wrong, apologize completely. Acknowledge the fact that whatever happened, that you were completely responsible. And how can I make it better? To show intent. But you only do it once. If you find yourself having to apologize for the same thing more than once, you need to address that. Because it might be that person might not be able to let that go. Well, if that's the case, you got to think about that. Is that what you want to do? Is that where you're going to go? So, yeah.
So let's flip it like this. This is what I want us to do, Bill. I want each young soldier on here to give the example of one of your boundaries, like something that makes you go, hey, this is a boundaries and non-negotiables are kind of the same thing to me. But one thing, spend about 2 minutes and discuss what of your boundaries are. Something like when I meet a young lady, this is something that like this is what we need to do. Like I need to let you know this up front. So what I want to do is the young fella Joe, young soldier, I want him to go first. I haven't heard his voice. So come on, young fella, tell us what your boundary is, what you consider a boundary for yourself, young man. And unmute yourself. You're still muted, bro. You gotta unmute your mic.
There we go. How you doing, fellas? I just joined in, man. I'm kind of late. But I don't know, man. Just I guess this he used the word punk, stuff like that. Just emasculation talk, or just feel like you're just trying to belittle me, or you're being condescending or anything like that in situations. That's a real deal breaker for me.
Bro, can you give some examples of emasculation talk?
I mean, it could be in the easy situation. It could be in the it could be as far as you might be interacting or talking to somebody and she over talking you. You know what I mean? Like maybe some simple ask for direction or something like that. And you talk to the guy or you talk to the person and they're talking over you or not giving you a chance to talk. That's, to me, that's emasculating. Or I don't know, man. It's a bunch of examples. But I mean, I kind of feel it when I'm in a situation, you know what I mean? I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Most definitely. I mean, any time where you when you do what I call a sucker punch, and basically what they're doing is taking a sucker punch at your balls.
Yeah,
right?
that too.
Anything that deals with your masculinity or short dick or your endurance or
Right.
call you a bitch or anything demeaning to your manhood.
Right.
And that is basically a trigger to all.
Especially intention means a lot too.
Right.
Intention means a lot. Like when you intentionally try to embarrass me or anything of that nature, it's like, yeah.
And the thing about that, I'm gonna tie into what Gary said. When you intentionally do something, I don't need your explanation. I need you to apologize. I need your apology to be just as disrespectful as you were. You know, if you disrespect, I need you just as loud as you were with the disrespect. I need you to be that loud with the apology. I learned a valuable lesson. Sometimes, fellas, and I'm gonna give you this one free. Sometimes you don't necessarily need. There go, bruh. What's up, baby, bruh?
Music.
Music in the
What up?
building. What's cracking? We in trouble now. Sometimes I learned the lesson, fellas. This is kind of off key, but I just want to throw this out here. Sometimes explanations are not necessary. Gary made a good point. If something goes wrong, deal with it immediately. Apologize and move on. And make sure that the apology is accepted. Make sure that you discuss what the offense was. So I don't know if that can be used as a boundary. Like, I need you to apologize. Like, if we have a discussion and something goes left, one of my boundaries is we need to discuss this. We need not to, because if you let it fester, if you let it sit there, it's going to get bigger and bigger. And then 6-7 months down the road, when you're thinking you were good in a relationship, that situation is going to come back up some way, somehow, some kind of trigger. Something's going to be said, and they're going to be like, "Oh, I remember back in December when you said or did or this," and then now you're like, "Why are we revisiting something? This is June. Like, we finna go on a cruise. Why are we talking about what happened in December?" Right. So that's a good example of a boundary. Like, fellas, you make sure that clear, effective communication and apologies. Like I said, sometimes we as fellas, we tend to want to fix a situation. We tend to want to fix the problem instead of just saying, "You know what, my bad," and keep it moving. My bad. I messed up on that one. You know, because that might be a boundary for some ladies. Some ladies might not want to hear all that. They might just want to be like, "Hey, take this L." It don't mean I don't care about you no more, but take this L. And that's the problem with boundaries. A lot of people don't like to set boundaries because they fear rejection. They fear that it might mess the relationship up. They feel like it might change the direction of the relationship. But I've learned the hard way and through trial and error that boundaries are important. So yeah.
You definitely need that vanishing deductible though, brother. I hate when.
What you said, Joe?
I said I definitely need that vanishing deductible. I hate when females keep bringing up the same thing over and over. Like, that 13 years ago. Why are you still talking about that?
Yeah, vanishing deductible.
Antoine.
Antoine's. Brother, we didn't get to hear your vantage point.
Antoine. We need to hear from you, bro. Unmute your mic, bro. There you go.
Again, good evening to all you guys. I'm glad to be back first. It's been a little minute since I've been back up here. I guess we're kind of like all on the same page with emasculating. One of my phrases that I definitely hate, and especially when the tone is there, well, I'm not gonna say hate, but I don't like, is "why you men, blase, blase, blase." Especially when it's in the wrong tone. I hate that. I really do not like that. Like, why you men don't do this? Why you men don't do that? Or, you know, when y'all gonna do that? Instead of, like I say again, I don't like that saying, because it brings off an energy, I say, to where that boundary can be compromised. It can start off to where that boundary could be compromised by either one of us. So like I said, I guess it's the emasculate. I guess the emasculating of that.
This is kind of interesting that we all speaking on this emasculation thing. Is that a problem, fellas? Is that a serious problem for us?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, I think it is. I mean, I think when we talk about to where how things are, like, between, I say, how us as men and women communicate towards each other as a whole, you know, to where in some cases, and not all cases, but in some cases, to where some women take a more masculine tone, and to where some men take a more feminine tone, to where sometimes it changes like that. It turns around. I think it kind of changes on how we all set boundaries towards each other, or how the boundary, or what those boundaries are. So I think the tone has changed between men and women in a lot of things. That's just
Okay.
mine.
Okay, Roger that.
All right.
All right, what's up,
Music.
music?
We're talking about boundaries and building boundaries, and how can we let's start talking about a couple of solutions. Like, how can we not only set those boundaries, but how can we communicate them so effectively that it doesn't feel like that's something that's being imposed on that person? Well, they'll accept it freely. Well, they'll, cooperate and work with you, and you and vice versa work with her. You know, what are some creative ways in order to do that, man? I mean, because we both sides know what we have to do, we're just not doing it. How can we do it?
We're not communicating it either. Now that we know, we both know what to do. It's not being communicated.
You gotta get off mute.
Mute, bro. I'm with you, Matt.
How you doing, fellas? Long time no
All right.
see. How y'all doing? How y'all doing?
You're alone in the building. What's up?
First of all, it's the communication. Your boundaries is set. Come on, fellas. It's set as the beginning of as you are the man. If you are seen weak, if you seem timid, anybody's going to run. Why would she respect your boundaries? So if you're not, as I remember, one of the very first conversations, Locker Room Chronicles, that goes back to, are you a lion or are you a gazelle?
Come on, bro.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Because if any woman's going to try you, she's not going to cross that line or cross that boundary if you have given that, like, oh no, I'm not going to try that. That's going to push his buttons. But as well too, though, fellas, we are scared to have these communication, have these conversations, these real conversations. Let's start talking about asking what's your favorite color, what's your favorite food. We too old for that. Let's get to these real conversations and talking about things, because the way you carry yourself and what you talk about, she's going to learn your boundaries by you talking about it. I understand. I heard Mr. Gary said there's certain things that I'm not talking about it at this point. You know what I mean? That's every man is different. Because me, I don't believe in wasting time. I don't want to waste no time. So let's go ahead and have these uncomfortable conversations. Things this is what I like, this is what I don't like. Oh, we not seeing eye to eye on it. It was good. We can be friends and keep it moving. You know what I mean? That's just, that may be the difference of not to put nobody out there. You know what I mean? I'm saying of age or anything, but that's just me as being a little bit younger than y'all. I'm not trying to get to all that. I'm trying to skip some of you. I've heard some of y'all struggles and everything. I've never been married. I've heard some of y'all said been divorced. I'm trying to get married one time and one time only. So I'm trying to learn from y'all mistakes. Some of the questions that you can ask a woman, you know what I mean? Fuck it, let's get to the real questions. What do you have a financial plan? What is your end goal? What are these are things that you need to be talking about. Where's your health at? What if you're talking to somebody long distance, are you open to moving? Or if not, why are you doing it?
Exactly.
What's the point of you? You know what I mean? So that's just me. That's just my little input on as far as on it, because you know what I mean, fellas, we got to remember that, you know what I mean, we lions in this piece. You know what I mean? Sometimes, you know what I mean, even myself, I took myself out this game, because sometimes, like you said, we got to reassess yourself, get yourself right before you come back and be like, okay, this is where I messed up. This is where I did wrong. Right. And remember that. You know what I mean? That's what you got to do sometimes.
Lyndon, roll on top of that. You know,
Yeah, one time.
and then touch up on some like creative ways, because I'm still interested in trying to figure out how are we brothers gonna overcome being able to communicate our boundaries with our women without it causing a problem. So
Well,
we need some solutions.
well, I think what helped me, and I'm just going to speak from my perspective. I think I put myself in a perspective to get myself to a point where I was going to be comfortable. I had to deal with the things that made me uncomfortable and making sure that I communicated that to my lady. Now, I'll give you an example. I don't know what it is in my past. For whatever reason, I deal with women that think their opinions of their girlfriends, their line sisters, or something I need to take inventory of. Just don't, and my thing is, I don't go out trying to disrespect anybody, but I make it abundantly clear that I don't need the approval, nor do I need the satisfaction of your girlfriends, your line sisters, your female cousins, or whoever to make you happy. And that's kind of, my non-negotiable. And for my lady I'm with now, I had to let her know these are the types of things I dealt with in the past, and I just don't want to deal with the opinions of girlfriends, line sisters, or whatever, because at the end of the day, we decided to get into this thing together. Any issues that we have to deal with them together. Any methodologies that we create as a couple to create heightened evolution for ourselves, we do it together. We don't need the opinions of folks in the peanut gallery or whatever at the chapter meeting and whatever to
Yeah, bro, say that again.
to do whatever. And I don't know. I'm not a woman, and maybe for some women that's important. I just don't know. I think, but for my lady, I let her know off jump. I don't deal with that, and because if I'm doing what I need to do for you, the opinions of other people don't matter. So I think I tried to answer your question. I think it all comes back to that nucleus, of communication, because in order to be, a lot of us has already been divorced or whatever. We're trying to do things different, better. In order to be better now, you have to not to be able to do things and tolerate things you used to. And I think that's just kind of where I kind of put myself in, because just as we touched on or whatever, one of the things I hate my time wasted. And because I can do bad by myself. So
hey, Bill, I want to tell you something that Music said. We've had this conversation many times. Fellas, don't shun that hard conversation. Don't that real talk, that hard conversation. Music hit it on the head, and I've said it numerous times. I had the opportunity to learn that from a young lady. Those hard conversations are necessary. It ain't always going to be easy, but they're necessary. It's just like when you were a child. I don't know anybody's parental background, but I was blessed to be raised by my mother and father. And there were some times when I had to have that conversation with my own man about something I did at school. And that was the worst conversation in the world. But the thing about it, when I walked away from it, I learned what the expectations were. Bam, there it is. I learned what the expectations were. So to tie into what Music was saying, sometimes you have to have those kind of conversations so you can know what the expectations are, so you can know what the boundaries are for that young lady, and then you can set your boundaries. I wrote down some things like we have to understand how to set boundaries. You have to define what your boundary is, then communicate it effectively. Because sometimes you can say something, if you don't say it the right way, it's going to cause a problem. So all this boils back to communication. And then you got to keep it simple. Like don't try to make it complex. Like be fair. Like be real. Don't try to make this person be a scientist, and that's not what they do. You have to understand the person that you're with and know what they can do and what they cannot do. And if you're with somebody who can't do what you need them to do, then don't waste your time. Because if you waste your time, then the first 2 minutes was their fault, but after that, it was on you. And then last is basically set the consequences. Like, we're going to have this hard conversation. I need you to hear me intently. I need you to listen to what I'm saying. And when this conversation is over, if these things are not met, then this is what the consequences are going to be. And that goes on both sides of the gender pool. Like, if a young lady tells you there's some things that she does not like, if she sets a boundary, you as a man have to make that decision. Hey, either I'm going to accept this boundary and try to continue to deal with her, or don't waste her time, don't waste your time. Give her the 2 fingers, and we can be cool and keep it moving. But anytime you intend on building with somebody and you intend on trying to build some type of future, Lyndon, that's my dude. I love the way he describes the process that he went through. Like I said, as you go on different levels, those boundaries will change. Because as you grow to know somebody, as you become more comfortable, there's certain things that in the beginning you be like, no, we're not doing that. Like Gary said, there's certain aspects of your life you might not discuss with your lady. She might not discuss with you. But as she begins to feel more comfortable, you begin to feel more comfortable with her, then that boundary will change. Like, okay, well, we can discuss this and we can discuss that. But it's all about, it goes back to, it seems like the general word that we keep hearing over and over again is communication. And we have to, and fellas, we have to communicate effectively. It's amazing how we communicate when we want, we want that you did, we want that action, we want to go out to date, or we want to kick it, we want to hang out. We're real good at that. But when it comes to having that tough conversation, we kind of freeze up. Go ahead, and I see you about to jump out your seat.
Yeah, I'm sorry. No, I just wanted
Go ahead, bro. You good?
I just wanted to kind of follow up what you're saying. And this is just me. One of the things that people need to stop doing on both sides of the gender aisle, stop trying to have difficult conversations via email and text.
Oh my God. Man, don't make me throw
the deficiencies in communications and people not being able to speak intelligently, articulating what they have to say. When you try to relegate that down to a text, texting and emailing in a difficult situation is just breeding grounds for ambiguity.
That's a boundary for me, bro. I'll play that.
Yeah, me.
Linda, did you say email? Do you really have? I just wanted to. You said email.
No, I've actually had women that wanted to deal with a difficult situation via text and email.
No, I'm straight.
I'm gonna let you. Okay.
Yeah, and for me, that just doesn't work. I think you got to be able to sit down, look at the person face to face, and stuff like that. Because when you're dealing with written communication, sometimes
lost in translation.
Something gets lost in translation. So I just, for me, it may work for other people. It don't work for me. So.
Gary, I see your hand up.
Yeah. Typing on this work here. Okay, look. Let's, first of all, Bill asked about coming up with solutions. The first thing about solutions is communication, like we all know. But you can't communicate effectively if you don't know yourself. That's number one. I would say, gentlemen, that all disrespect isn't emasculating. Sometimes the disrespect has nothing to do with your manhood. It's still disrespect and has to be addressed, but it's not your manhood. But if they say what a real man does, yeah, that's emasculating. Okay, so knowing yourself means that you got to know what happens when you don't particularly like a particular situation. Well, there's some theory I've been studying recently about response, and it talks about the sequence between emotions, feelings, and thoughts and behaviors. The emotion is a physiologic response. It could be that you crack a smile, you smirk, you make a face. The feeling is that you know what you just did. You may know why you did it, though. So then you have thoughts that come in there and say, oh, well, was it because this happened, I did this, or whatever? Did I perceive that, or whatever? So the first thing is you got to know yourself. And once you know yourself, be in situations, you'll be like, I'm feeling some kind of way, but I can't put my finger on it. So you just say, you know what? I didn't like that. I don't know how to put my finger on it, but when I do, I'm going to come back and address it. Because you need to figure out from yourself to be clear, concise, complete with what happened and what you feel about it and how you think it could be solved. The better you know yourself, the better you can communicate to somebody else.
Sixth man.
There's another thing too. Don't ask for what you won't give.
Oh, good point.
You're doing, whatever expectation you're putting out there, be prepared to meet it yourself. Don't be hypocritical.
Yeah, take that same energy.
Being hypocritical, you'll get
Take that same energy. That's what you need to do.
the same energy. I'm
Sixth
out.
man. Let's hear from you. Let's hear from you.
Hey, Bill. So I'm sitting here listening to everybody, and I'm just kind of thinking about some stuff that I've been through recently and in my past, and I'm putting it together. And the biggest thing that I'm coming up with now that I've kind of heard everybody else speak is another thing, just on maturity level. When you're dealing with somebody, you're not gonna be able to come at them the same way you went at somebody else because that's a different individual, right? And then I heard somebody say that depending on how you operate, the female gonna be watching you to see how you operate, right? And so I feel like in some regard, you might not even have to say anything to have your boundaries set because she can see how you operate and automatically understand some things she's not gonna be able to do or say to you, period, right? But for me, I'm just at a point now where one of the things that my ex did to emasculate me was if I lost a job, we may get into an intense fellowship and she might say, you can't even keep a job. You know what I mean? And when men can't, supply or when men can't provide, that gets to us. I mean, I don't know what man, it doesn't bother them if they can't pay their bills or they worrying about, how they gonna be able to get this done and get that done. It bothers them, you know what I'm saying? A little bit, And so when she tax it on and be like, oh, you can't even keep a job, that's a form of disrespect as well as emasculation, right? But I'm in a situation now, fast forward, where I've been talking to a young lady where it's a long distance situation, right? But since COVID, we kind of been forced to, talk, get to know each other a little bit better and on an adult level because we knew each other in high school and now we're coming back to each other, but we're both older now. We got kids, we both been married, we in a different, situation all the way around. And I think that just the amount of time that we've been able to talk, and everything in between that everybody said, your dislikes, your likes, some stuff that you dealt with in your past that you don't want to deal with. I think within that time period, just communicating, you lay all that groundwork to let her know some of the things that, you don't accept anymore. You know what I mean? As well as her doing the same. So I just say it's a amount of maturity to get you to understand, how to put everything on the table. Because for me, honestly, like if I really like you, if I really am feeling you, I'm putting everything on the table. I'm not even gonna waste my time, holding on and not telling you everything that I've been through. I'm gonna try to give you as much information up front as possible so you can make the decision if you want to move forward with me, right? But even within that time frame, the way I operate, the way I treat my mother, the way I might treat my daughter, you watching all that. So you gonna understand, what I'm going to deal with and what I'm not willing to deal with based off our communication, because everybody, has talked about the communication piece. But I just wanted to talk about the maturity part, because you have to be a little bit mature to get that thought process of that person, getting you to understand who they are, how they operate, and what they do. So again, for me, I mean, I met this young lady, and again, we've been talking long distance for almost a year now. And I never thought that I would be somebody who would do the long distance thing, but it works. I mean, it's working for me. You know what I mean? For right now, until we figure out, you know, like I think the older gentleman said, you know, whether you're going to move to that state or she gonna move back with you or whatever the case may be. But COVID has forced us to communicate heavily, other than being on social media or other stuff. You know what I'm saying? So we've been able to communicate every day for an entire year without missing a beat. You know what I mean? So we've been through some stuff together. We went through some ups and downs. I lost my job. She lost her job. So we've seen each other low, and then we've seen each other build each other back up, you know, or get back to that top, you know, get them back on top, so to speak. So we've both seen each other highs and lows and talked to each other through it. And it's a beautiful thing. So, I mean, I just think that boundaries can be set either verbally or they can be set just by one just watching you. And then if she start asking questions about some stuff that you may not like, you know, you could just, you know, communicate that. So again, I think that we all talked about communication, but I do think the maturity piece is a piece that plays a part as well.
Yeah, that intellectual and emotional maturity is real important. And what's up, brother? Speak on it, because it looked like on a couple of occasions you had something to say.
But there's an old adage, and I think all of us can relate to this because we all, I'm assuming we're all sports fans, but teamwork makes the dream work.
Always.
And I say that because, you know, like Kevin, I too was once married. And unfortunately, some division came into play that played a major role in our ultimate separation. Prime example, there will be moments where she would take money out of our joint account, fund family members who couldn't pay their own rent, and then tell me about it after the fact. Like, that to me is a brand of emasculation, because you're saying, forget what we're trying to build. I'm gonna do what I want to do for my peoples, and then I'll let my husband know after the fact. So for me, that's a lack of regard towards, you know, my role as the leader, my role as the man and as the husband. And pretty much you're going to do what you want to do and how you want to do it. And I say this all the time: no marriage or no relationship rather, with separate agendas is ever going to succeed. So there has to be teamwork involved. And if there's no understanding of teamwork, then that's a major boundary for me that is shattered. And for me, that means that relationship isn't bound to go anywhere.
Hey, Bill, can I tell him to something that's what I just said?
Yeah, go ahead, bro.
Kev and Twan, man, y'all kind of put me in the space.
Okay.
Me too. I was married and I am not divorced. And I think it seems like we all experience the same thing. The biggest mistake that I say I made, and it goes back to what I said about the hard conversations. I let a lot of stuff slide. I let a lot of stuff slide in order to, and those that have been married will understand what I'm about to say. You got to pick your battles, bro. You got to pick your battles. And sometimes some battles I should have fought, I didn't fight, only for the sake of peace in the house. But what I found out happening as I got older, and as the marriage began to deteriorate, and that emasculation began to set in, I was like, you know what? As I really began to take a look at myself and say, you know what? I let a lot of stuff go that I should have let go. And here's what happens, fellas, and I need y'all to hear me and hear me well. For those that are not married, listen to me. Don't let nothing slide. I'm not saying be a goon. I'm not saying go hard. But what I'm saying is, when there's a situation, you need to deal with it. Because what happened is, as you begin to let stuff slide, I think music, and I believe Kevin probably said it too, as they see how you move, as they begin to push the envelope and push the button, when they push that button, they see you don't respond, they make a mental note of that. They push another button, they see you don't respond, they make a mental note of that. And they keep pushing buttons. And then when they realize, oh, he ain't gonna do nothing. And what you don't understand is as they push those buttons, they're getting closer to DEFCON 4. And before you know it, you will have snapped and not know why. And the reason why you snapped is because why? You didn't set your own boundaries. You didn't enforce your own boundaries. And now you've allowed a situation that you should have had that hard, tough conversation about. You didn't do it. And now you're sitting there looking like, I'm mad, I'm pissed, I'm ready to bounce. And I can't attest for everybody else, but that's what happened with me. At the point, I was like, you know what? I'm not doing this no more. But by the time you finally come into your place and say, you know what, you're not doing this no more, it's kind of too late because you let so much stuff slide, there's no respect there anymore. So the best thing for you to do is to get the do sign and keep it moving. Because if you don't, the emasculation is going to continue. Go ahead, bro. I see you with your finger up.
Hey, E, and just real quick, I went to counseling, right? And I thought that my counseling was going to be counseling to, you know, help me manage my relationship. Like if we go to counseling, you know, this going to be the end all be all. And it wasn't. It ended up being everything about me, everything in my past,
You're
everything
going
that
to
I
make me
dealt
come over
with.
and high-five you. But give you that, bro.
You know what I'm saying? But I was also going to say,
you was looking the same thing.
No, but I was going to also say that the counselor told me something that you hit on just now. She was like, after the couple conversations that we've had, you don't strike me as somebody that's going to automatically let somebody disrespect them. You seem like you're somebody that's going to be like, hey, you know, don't disrespect me or whatever the case may be. But she said what happens is you got so in the, I want to say content with being with her and not wanting to argue, where you've allowed her to build up this disrespectful attitude towards you, where you've allowed her to treat you that way. So even though I know you upset at her, I want you to be upset at you too, because you've allowed it for a certain amount of time and now she feels comfortable. So I'm glad you hit on that, because I had to understand that even though I was upset about it, I had to understand that I played a major part in that as well.
Oh, good point, bro. Good point.
Good point. But only thing I was going to add on to this is, fellas, it's the communication is a very big thing. I know I'm gonna speak for myself. I know there's probably some of y'all might feel me on this. When we are to have effective communication, sometimes, like he was just saying, that I'm like you, bro. I'm from Chicago, bro. You're not gonna talk to me any type of way. I'm a whole, my saying I say is, I'm a whole thug with a degree. Please let's not find out that other side. But fellas, what the problem of it is, when we are communicating with our ladies, with these women, period, is sometimes, fellas, we gotta not put a period on certain conversations. That period on that conversation will trigger them as well and shut that down. We need to put that comma in there, and need that comma in that conversation to keep it. And fellas, as we as well, just remember, these are lionesses. They hunt. So you ain't gonna talk to some of these women, ain't gonna let you talk to them any type of way as well.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, this is what they do. They're not going to do it. So therefore, you have to find that medium where it's, hey, she's gonna be like, okay, she went and hunted, big fella, for you. I'm a whole lion. I ain't got to hunt. She hunts. I come and eat. But I'm still doing my end because I'm protecting her. I'm watching over her. So we got that right there. Is you got to understand, we got it. You know what I mean? That base sometimes is going to trigger a wrong reaction, because it always comes down, because I'm gonna go ahead and say this, because these bridges that was built for me by these bridge builders that was ahead of me, I've learned from them, and I'm building on now for the ones that cross over as well. So I'm trying to teach my younger brothers and everything, like, yo, hey, watch how you can still handle her, but watch it in a way where she still look at you like, okay, that's my king.
Come on, sir.
He heard,
Mm-hmm.
that's my king. He respected me enough. We have to, because simple fact of the matter was, I learned from, I've been around OGs, and this is what I said. Nah, this is a different time. This is a different time. That's not going to fly. You will be single by yourself and hurt because the thing of it is, because they didn't have social media. We got social media. She ain't gonna block you, nigga. She gonna show you that she living her best life without you.
Tell you better she tell you.
And you gonna be sitting there like
singing Little Lady.
How did some of the of course some of the women clutch your purse? You will be sitting there. So we have to. This the thing of it is no matter is before you get her, while you with her, and it's a always continuous thing of learning how to be effective of this communication, because we was not taught that. That's not in our culture. It was not that way, but it is now. They're not having that. So fellas, the only thing I could say is hold on from that period on the end of that conversation. Sometimes it's a comma that needs to be added in there. Why, I can still get my whole point across without doing all the rah-rah, the yelling, doing all that. Because my boys that know me, they laugh. Because the niggas that doing all this huff and puff, nigga, I'll pop your mom like that. I'm standing like this. I'm the worst nigga. I'm the real one. I'm the one you should be worried about, because I'm sitting there.
Right.
But sometimes you don't gotta do all that. She'll get your point. So that's my little interpretation.
Bro, put this on real quick. I want y'all to take this with y'all. Y'all finna laugh at me. I need y'all to watch The Lion King again. All y'all call yourselves lions. I need y'all to watch The Lion King again. There's a scene in there when Simba was hanging out with Timba and them, and they basically talked him out of being a king. He was hanging around people he should have been hanging around with. And when Nala came and saw him, she spoke to the king in him and told him who he was. Fellas, there's nothing more amazing than meeting a woman that speaks to the king in you. And when she activates that king in you, she expects you to walk in that anointing. And I know y'all laugh when I said Lion King, but I need y'all to go back, because I'm telling you, he was out there kicking with Timba and Puma, like, yeah, they out there eating, he's supposed to be eating them. He out there eating worms and bark and herbs, and he wasn't nowhere near being a king. And then Nala looked at him and said, whoa, Pimp, this ain't you. Ain't nothing, come on, ain't nothing more beautiful than a woman to tell you, no, this ain't you. That ain't what I see. You Simba, you Musa's son. You are the king, and you need to walk accordingly to that. So, fellas, yeah, take that with you, man. You gotta watch that. Twan, you got like 30 seconds, brother. Then we need to wrap up, and I'm gonna let Bill close it out.
Okay, yeah, I was going to say, when you said that, it was like when she said that, it was like an immediate switch to his whole perspective. Because like I said, when you were saying that, I just saw the whole scene in my eyesight. As soon as he said it, it was like he lay down, he jumped up and started running back to the prime, like immediately.
And the crazy part about that is, fellas, listen to me. Every woman can't speak to the king in you. I need y'all to hey, y'all, listen to me. Listen to me. I'm not playing about this. Preach. When you meet that woman that activates the king in you, oh my God. You don't even understand. You don't even understand. When she says, it's the way she says your name. When she talks to you, when she listen, y'all wait, listen to me very closely. It's time for us to be Simbas. But you can't be a Simba if you don't recognize, first of all, who you are. Stop hanging around with Timba and Puma and start getting around like men. Like, this is what we're doing. These are kings on this page. We building each other up. This is what the Locker Room Chronicles does. We build each other up. We hold each other accountable. So if you want to go play with Timba and Puma, get up off this zone. But if you want to be a king and you want to meet that knowledge that's going to speak to that king in you, you're in the right place. Go ahead, Bill. Knock us down, bro.
Yeah, brothers. Building boundaries has been a great discussion. Way to kick off our 2021 season here on HBCU Singles Lounge Network. We invite each and every brother that participated tonight to come back, in another 2 weeks when we hold another one. We may touch on building boundaries a little bit more, but
Yes,
it
sir.
also flows into some other topics that we have. Brothers, I appreciate y'all. Appreciate y'all vulnerability, being open, being honest with us, and giving us time to breathe and talk amongst one another, and at the same time, letting the women know on the other side that's watching on the YouTube channel, how we feeling about things. I appreciate y'all. Eugene, you want to take us in prayer and let's close it out?
Most definitely. Again, fellas, this is not the end of this boundary discussion, because this is something that's going to set the foundation for that king and queen relationship, because that's all we're definitely looking for that. So let's look into the Father. Dear Heavenly Father, we want to thank you for all the young kings that came out on this evening. We want to thank you for bringing us into a new year. God, as we begin to meditate and think about this subject called boundaries, God, I ask that you would give us healthy boundaries, boundaries that will protect us as well as make the relationship grow. Each and every man on this page desires to be the best that he can be. It desires to be the king that you've called us to be. And we're asking that you just touch our heart, touch our minds, keep us in constant meditation, keep us in constant thought on what we can do to improve ourselves. God, we thank you for the Locker Room Chronicles. We thank you for this time that has been carved out for us to come together as men and discuss our issues and discuss solutions to our issues. And now, God, as we begin to leave this zone, God, we ask that you protect each and every brother. I cover them with the anointing of God. I cover them in the precious blood. And God, until we meet again, we thank you for this day. In Jesus' name we pray. Thank God. Amen. Salute, bro.